Welcome to OnCore Live. I'm your host, Robin Bell, and we've got some great interviews coming up for you today. Now, for those of you joining us for the first time, you might be wondering, what is OnCore Live all about? OnCore Live brings industry leaders and Avery Dennison experts together in an engaging live format to serve your customers with insights and services that will help you grow your business. We're going to have a question and answer at the end of the broadcast, but you can certainly send those questions to us throughout the webcast, and we'll address them at the end of the broadcast. And please post those questions in the Q&A tab on your meeting toolbar and not in chat. During today's OnCore Live, Dave Shuey, Avery Dennison Performance Tapes Application and Technical Manager, is going to be describing how his team of technical application experts can assist you with tape construction and application development. He's also going to tell us how you can take advantage of the Avery Dennison Innovation Center to support and expand your business. We're also going to be talking to Janet Sandoval, Avery Dennison Corporation's Director of Global Corporate Social Responsibility and the Avery Dennison Foundation. Janet will share how Avery Dennison helps address community needs, and she's also going to offer ideas about what you can do to create a positive impact for the communities that you serve. We're going to begin this webisode with Joe Tocci, Board President of the Pressure Sensitive Tape Council, or Pstc. Joe's here to share the organization's mission and vision, as well as insights into our industry's overall health. He's also going to provide information about activity in emerging business segments and organization membership. So with that, let me say welcome to OnCore Live, Joe. Very happy that you could be with us here today.
Thank you, Robin. It's great to be here. And for everyone who's listening, I apologize. We had technical difficulties. I could not get my camera to turn on. For some of you, that may be a blessing. For me, it's a disappointment because I did actually shave and put on a sport coat just for this presentation.
So you're looking good. We'll take your word for it. But we've got that great picture of you, Joe. So here's a question for you. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Pstc?
Sure. I'll start with myself. My name is Joe Tocci. My full-time job is I work for Intertape Polymer Corporation, which many of you may have heard of. I am our Senior Vice President of Global Sourcing and Supply Chain, and I've been with Intertape for about 16 and a half years now. My part-time job is I am the President of the Pressure Sensitive Tape Council, which is, we like to consider ourselves an influential North American trade association, and we're made up of the largest tape manufacturers and some of our key suppliers. So altogether, we have about 50 members between manufacturers and our key suppliers. Our purpose is really to be first and top of mind in the industry when it comes to education, training, test methods, and regulation for all pressure-sensitive tapes. But the one thing that almost 50 members all have in common is we have a shared objective, which is to drive increases in the global use and sale of tape products. So in short, our common message is we want people thinking about tape and using tape.
So let's go and talk specifically about a couple of these values that you've got here that Pstc offers, and we'll start with education. In what way has Pstc worked to grow the industry through education?
It's been a really big evolution. If you go back many years, it used to be that some of the large tape manufacturers all did their own training and development and education in-house, but through the combination of some acquisitions, some downsize and consolidation within the industry, we found it was really a need that really wasn't being fulfilled. So especially for some of our smaller members. So it really started with us putting together really just some fundamentals courses and then some advanced classes as well. But it's grown even more since then. We have now what we refer to as Tape Academy, which is one of the leading venues of pressure-sensitive adhesives tape education. And yes, it's really made up of a combination of on-demand courses, and there's also live and in-person courses. Recently, we've gotten into more specific markets. We 2 years ago, we were focusing on building and construction, which we view as a huge growth market for tapes. And our next focus is going to be the automotive industry. The most recent addition that we've made to that is we've started kind of a monthly webinar series. And it really hits on a variety of topics, which is interesting to see, because when you look at our member companies, 1 month you may have, all of your research and development people who call in. And the next month, sometimes it's finance and human resources people, because the topics of those webinars will range. Sometimes it will be regarding regulatory information. Sometimes it will be a political discussion. We had one shortly after the 2020 election to just talk about the changing landscape of politics. And other times it will be technical papers or financial in nature, economic in nature. So it's always evolving.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So there's lots of information and learning opportunities for your members. So why don't we talk a little bit about networking opportunities? In addition to virtual events, live events, they're starting to open up, as well as some hybrid versions. What event plans does Pstc have that are coming up?
So our next event, and knock on wood, we are hoping will still be live. It is November 9th through 11th, where we will be having our fall membership meeting. We'll be down in Bonita Springs, Florida. So just as the weather's starting to turn for some parts of the country, we'll be getting together down in South Florida. Our fall membership meeting tends to be a little bit smaller and more intimate. You often have a more senior level management from our member companies who come. Our big meeting is always in the spring. It's what we are now calling Tape Week. And this past year was, 2020 was supposed to be the first and original Tape Week. Unfortunately, that got pushed, as did 2021. But in 2022, we hope we'll be back live for Tape Week. That'll be in Orlando. And really, Tape Week is an opportunity to network with other people within the industry, on both the manufacturing side and on the supplier side. But it's also a great opportunity for technical knowledge or application knowledge, as well, as we do a lot of tracks related to technical skills and education as well.
So that sounds like a great event. Actually, both of those, Tape Week and your fall meeting that's coming up. Quickly, the fall meeting, we know that things are going a little crazy right now, but will you have a hybrid version of this for those that can't travel? Will you have both offered?
No, right now we are only going to go with the live option. We'll make a final decision on that within the next couple of weeks, but we feel pretty confident that we have the right social distancing, the right protocols in place to be able to do it in a live environment. We have a lot of the events that, some of the networking events, the meals will all take place outside. While we're inside, we will wear masks, and we will be socially distanced. We've gotten a large enough ballroom that we can spread people out and still maintain that social distancing and make sure that people feel very safe while they're there.
Yep, safety while being able to network, two key components. So before we go, would you share some of the other benefits of the Pstc membership?
Oh yeah, sure. And this wheel really does a nice job of laying it out for you. And that is, ultimately, that's what we're here for. We want to make sure that we are always driving value to our members. So we talked a little bit about education. We talked a little bit about networking, but advocacy is a very large issue. When you think about government regulation, it's really important that we do two things here. Number one, it's very important that we are aware of what's going on, and so that we can communicate that to our members. And again, for a lot of our smaller members, this is really important. Some of us, some of us within the manufacturing group or large companies, we do some of this stuff in-house. But a lot of our smaller members do not. So it's really important that we're able to let them know what's coming down the path from a regulation or an EH&S standpoint. And then the other thing is there will be times that we would like to challenge it. And if we believe that it's important to challenge some of the regulation, we will often do that as a group rather than as individual companies. On the resources side, a lot of time is spent here talking collaboratively about how we grow the industry. And a lot of that falls under leadership as well. It is really important as you know, as we move forward as an organization and as an industry, that we're always thinking about growth and how do we really, instead of thinking of it as how do we each get a fair share of the pie, the thought process is how do we make the pie bigger so that we can, you know, all enjoy it.
Well, I think that's great. So you're talking about including converters in with suppliers and manufacturers to open this all up for PSTC, enriching the experience for everybody.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really wanted to talk to this group about. When PSTC started, it was just the tape manufacturers. And then as we realized that, you know, how important it was that we grow the industry, we realized that our suppliers were really important to us and that they had some thoughts on how that could happen. That was probably 15 years ago that we added the suppliers into the membership pool. And now we're at the point that we're saying, we like the trajectory that we're on. We like the growth that we're seeing as an industry, but we want to make sure that we're continuing that thought process. And when you think about who is really important to each of us as tape manufacturers and who probably has that shared vision and shared message of wanting to grow and may have a need for some of that, you know, technical knowledge and education, it's the converters. Every single, you know, there's about 28 manufacturers that make up PSTC. The others are suppliers, but every one of them has relationships with converters. We all view them as being very strategic to our business. So if we're going to be thinking collaboratively about how we grow and where we grow, we just think converters are the right place to go. But you know, we view that conversation as being a two-way street. Just because we think that they would want to have a seat at the table, and we don't want to jump to any conclusion. So we would love to hear from some of the converters as to whether or not they see value in being part of PSTC as well.
Well, it's a very robust community, and it seems to me it's a good opportunity for converters to be a part of this organization. Joe, I want to say thank you. This is really great. I'm certain that you piqued the interest of our audience here today. To learn more about PSTC, visit pstc.org. It's on the screen right now if you want to take a moment to copy that down. Thank you, Joe. This was great.
Thanks, Robin.
As a reminder, we're going to have a Q&A at the end of the broadcast, but you can send questions to us anytime during the broadcast. And please post those questions in the Q&A tab on your meeting toolbar that's just right down below. Have you ever wondered how you can leverage Avery Dennison Performance Tapes technical expertise? Well, today we've got with us Dave Shuey, Avery Dennison Application and Technical Manager. He's going to tell us how his team of technical application experts can help you and how you can access the Paynesville Innovation Center. Hey, Dave, welcome to OnCore Live. Glad that you could spend some time with us today.
Thanks for having me, Robin, and being able to represent my team here today.
Yeah, good to see you. So, Dave, what exactly is the Avery Dennison Application Technical Service, or ATS?
So ATS is basically our boots on the street. So it is a group of engineers that work with our sales team and our customers to find existing solutions, new solutions, or even next generation solutions. We basically fill a lot of different shoes in the organization, but at the end of the day, we're truly what, the overused term of a solutions provider. And that's what ATS truly means.
So you like to, you and your group like to say that you're not looking at your customers just a number. You and the team want to learn their story to better tailor their need. So can you expand a little further for our audience and describe the function of ATS?
Sure, absolutely. So, I mean, look, everybody's got tapes. Everybody's got products they want to sell. A lot of times our customers already have products that they're using. The role of my team is really to get out there and understand what the application is, and are you actually using the right product, or are you using a product that you had off the shelf, and maybe we can do something that'll do more for you or your customer, add more value, increase line speeds, better quality. So really, that's why our team is going to ask a lot of the questions. They're going to try to understand how you're using it. So instead of asking, what do you need? We ask, what do you need the tape to do? Not what construction do you need or anything else. That's all part of the story. We bring all those parts together to give you a full solution.
Well, that's great. And wasn't sure if that was you or me. How many members of the ATS team are there? And Dave, what's your role?
So the members of the ATS team, I mean, they're part of a larger group. They're the tip of the spear. There's a handful of us with me at the helm. The ATS group, and under my leadership, as well as those around me, it's very much a collaborative effort. But my role on that team typically tends to be, I've been with the company and in this capacity for a number of years, 20 years with Avery Dennison Performance Tapes. But not only am I a tapes historian, but I've been out on the coating lines, out on the finishing lines, out in front of the customers. I'm able to actually take all the individual pieces of that story and help bring it together. So that's my role. And then the people on my team, the engineers, they're basically getting all the details and then executing to the plan. Whether that means existing products, testing for usefulness, trying to look at the pros and cons of the materials, or even developing new products.
I like your tapes historian. That's awesome. Another question for you. These days everybody's got customer support teams. What makes ATS unique?
So what makes us unique is a number of different things. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody typically will have similar equipment. Anybody can do a peel adhesion test. The question is, what do you do with the values that are generated from those results? And that's what separates this team apart, the Avery Dennison Performance Tapes ATS team apart, is they're able to take each of those disparate pieces of information, and they're able to figure out, how that contributes to the larger story. So doing the testing is part of it, setting up the right testing, asking the right questions so you get the right answers. That's what sets these people apart. That's what makes us unique. We want to actually be in front of our customers. COVID's made it a little bit more challenging. We've leveraged a lot more technology these days to get in front of customers in different ways, but really be the boots out on the street in terms of understanding how the material works. It's not just about selling a solution. It's about making sure that that solution actually can get all the way through the value chain, that it actually does what our customers originally intended it to do. It's not about just sticking, it's about staying stuck.
That's nice too. So I want to talk a little bit more about the Paynesville Innovation Center. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and tell our audience a bit about that?
Sure. We're very proud of the capabilities that we have on our Paynesville site. Not only is it our coating, our finishing, but the lab capabilities as well. So we have, a standard lab, TAPI lab. All that means is it's under constant humidity and temperature control. But we can do all the testing on site. Peel, tack, shear, a test called SAFT, release testing, and then a lot more in terms of the analytical testing. We don't have to send that out to third party. We don't have to wait or try to relay what we're trying to do to another party to actually kind of figure it out and then provide us the results and then us try to interpret that. So not only does it get us closer to the solution, it gets us to the solution quicker. We're a lot more nimble on our feet. We can look at a lot of different products while focusing on whatever the customer or opportunity might require. But we can take some different looks at it. What you see here on the screen with our analytical lab and synthesis lab, these are actually what we've liked to call basically being big enough to have the expensive toys, but still being nimble enough to use them and share those results with our customers. So the analytical lab, when we're really looking at the fingerprint of the materials, we can identify different components. The synthesis lab, where we're actually driving development, that's a picture of Dr. Dong Shea there, who's basically bending the molecules to make the adhesive do what it needs to do. So, we've got a lot of capabilities, and the big thing is that those capabilities are provided to our customers. That's part of the service that we provide.
Well, it certainly distinguishes you from the others, and it's another thing that makes ATS unique. So this was really great information that you've given us today about ATS. How can the converter customers of Avery Dennison access the Innovation Center?
Great question. It doesn't do us much good if they can't get a hold of us, right?
Right.
So
Exactly.
in terms of that, it's generally it's on a case-by-case basis, but usually our account managers, territory accounts, key accounts, they generally will get you your first in with the technical team. And that basically will typically develop into personal and professional relationships where essentially you'll have direct access throughout the project with the ATS engineers. And I would also like to make a plug for the larger team in R&D, because ATS is just the tip of the spear for what we do in development and application support. So you have the ATS engineers, you also have the R&D engineers, and then you have the material scientists as well. So the customer base basically, first route access, go through your account managers, and then that relationship will develop. And the test reports, all the data that we generate, we're fairly transparent with that, where we'll provide you guys the test reports and go over both the pros and the cons of what we found in terms of the testing.
So you definitely tailor to the customer need. The offerings are varied and definitely robust. Dave, thank you so much. Thanks for spending time with us and for sharing all of this great information with our audience about ATS. Dave's going to be back to answer your questions during our Q&A a little bit later in the broadcast, and you can go ahead and post those customers those questions right now in your meeting toolbar. So joining us now is Janet Sandoval, Director of Avery Dennison Corporation's Global Corporate Responsibility and of the Avery Dennison Foundation. During this interview, we're going to hear about one of Avery Dennison's sustainable development goals, and also how you can develop your own corporate social responsibility task force to make an impact in your community. Welcome to OnCore Live, Janet. I'm really happy to see you here with us today.
Thank you, Robin. Happy to be here.
So Avery Dennison's got a very long history of financial support and employee volunteerism. Would you tell us about what's involved in the corporate social responsibility structure at Avery Dennison?
Sure. So just so that everyone knows here what corporate social responsibility is, it's a self-regulating business model that helps us be socially accountable to ourselves, our stakeholders, and the public. By practicing corporate social responsibility at Avery Dennison, we try to be conscious of the kind of impact we have on all aspects of society, including economic, social, and environment. There's a couple of different ways that corporations address this at Avery Dennison. We do our CSR through the corporation, which increases our visibility in communities in which we operate. And those funds and donations are given directly to nonprofit organizations by the corporation. On the foundation side, which is just stronger of our corporate philanthropic efforts, it's a separate legal entity. It's managed by a board of trustees, which consists primarily of Avery Dennison employees. And our mission at the Avery Dennison Foundation is to advance the causes of education, sustainability, and women's empowerment, specifically in the communities where Avery Dennison employees live and work. We completely encourage employee engagement to align with that spirit of invention and innovation.
So in 2020, let's talk a little bit about that and the challenges that came with that for everybody. How did the Avery Dennison Foundation address those challenges, and what are some of the sustainable development goals?
Sure. So yes, it was definitely a year of adjustment. While we pride ourselves in addressing needs in local communities, we realized that many of our employees were impacted due to COVID. So the foundation and its trustees created an employee assistance fund, which was there to relieve employees that experienced termination or furlough or were impacted by hours and pay. And that has something that has been running for the past year, and our department has been trying to address and help our employees around the world to fill a gap. A little bit about the sustainable development goals. They were obviously set by the United Nations, and they call for action by all countries to promote prosperity while protecting the planet. We feel that our pillars of funding, which are women's empowerment, education, and sustainability, are addressing 4 of those goals.
Yeah. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about, switch a little bit here and go into some of the more memorable ways that Avery Dennison has supported the communities? I know there are many, and I've seen several of those in looking into this, but I'd like for you to share some with our audience.
Absolutely. So our CSR and philanthropic work is very diverse, making sure that we're answering to the varying needs around the world. But some of the most memorable ones are the ones that are identified by employees and country. One of them is we've partnered with many organizations addressing sustainable issues such as FSC certification and also decreasing plastic in the ocean. Another one is we have a scholarship program in India that promotes and encourages the spirit of invention and innovation to college students. It's basically a program where students apply and identify their invention idea, and then they go through a selection process, and we award 10 scholarships every year. And we're just happy to be part of their creative thinking, and we're amazed at the ideas that we see. And another one that stands out is we've supported reading libraries in rural communities in many countries. This picture you see here is specifically in Vietnam, and it provides literacy to young children. It's an experience made possible by Avery Dennison.
It's really amazing, and look at those happy faces. Everybody's benefiting. So I've got one more question for you. What are some of the ways that our audience can get started on giving back in their own communities?
Sure. So, we try to lead this work definitely from a philanthropic perspective, but we do see many of our employees getting involved individually. And I would say to our listeners today is don't overthink it. Ask yourself or your small team, large team, what you're passionate about. It's important to just start small. And believe it or not, these NGOs benefit from all of the help, whether it's food drives all the way to skill-based volunteering. So yes, you know, I'm sure our contact information is on our website. I'm happy to discuss. Our team holds informational calls with many people that want to get started.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, you can see there's another slide here. We're talking about disaster response. There's a variety of ways that Avery Dennison Foundation has helped in the community. This was really insightful. You gave us great information here. We've got a slide up here. You can take a quick look at this to see about the corporate volunteer programs that could be available where you are as well. Thank you for this inspiration as well, and thanks for sharing time with us, Janet.
Thank you.
We're just about ready to move into the Q&A with our guest speakers, but before we do, there is still time for you to submit a question for our guests. If you have a question, post it now in the Q&A on the meeting toolbar. I'm looking there right now. I also want to let you know about our next OnCore Live. That's scheduled for Thursday, December 16th. Put it in your calendar and save that date. All right, so we've got our guests back with us for our viewer Q&A. Let's get started with our first question. This one is for you, Dave. It's about ATS. Some other tape manufacturers are also working on something like your ATS service while buying your adhesive. How do you deal with this type of conflict of interest?
Nothing like tossing me a softball to begin with.
We want to keep you on your toes.
So the thing is, and you know, having even Joe with Pstc here, I mean, there's plenty of people out there that coat adhesives. There's plenty of people out there that sell adhesives. I mean, if they're buying from Avery Dennison and they're buying our adhesive, they've at least started down the right path. But I will say that how we bring those adhesives together, the art of making the tape, sets us apart, you know, head and shoulder above most of our competition. So I would very much place my team out in the field against any other team out there, and you know, we'll see who comes up with a better solution. So even if you're buying the same materials, doesn't mean you're coming up with the same solution. You're testing for that solution. You're doing all the other things that come into making a tape. Like I said, to start this is there's the science of making a tape, and you can read books on that. The art of making the tape is very, very different. And you know, just the adhesive is only a component of that. So again, plenty of people can do what we do, but they can't do it to the same level and with same integration, speed, and consistency, as well as transparency. I mean, the test reports that we offer really should be best in class from what I've seen. But feel free to challenge me on that and give us a chance to.
And I would also add to that, there's so many other offerings from ATS. Dave elaborated on that a little bit earlier. So lots of reasons for this. Looks like we've got a question here for Joe. You mentioned automotive as a segment for growth. What's a segment you see for growth in the next 5 to 10 years? Joe, you want to answer that?
That's a great question, and you know, and this is one of those areas where, you know, perhaps, you know, having input from converters would really help us, right? So we sit back and say, you know, we've already had a focus on building and construction, and now we've turned our attention to automotive. Where it goes next could be electric vehicles, you know, could be solar, could be batteries. So we're not sure. But we know we're going somewhere after automotive. So, you know, the more input that we have on where those growth areas are, the better.
Okay, let me hand this one off. We got several questions here, and we still have some time here. This one is for you, Janet. What advice would you give an organization who's just starting a CSR program?
Yeah, I would say it's very important to align what your company does and believes in. So if you know you're creating a lot of waste, you want to, tackle that. If you know that you're really about science and STEM, you want to make sure you're aligned with that. It just makes sense and it makes employees proud. But I will go back to saying, you hear of large corporations doing a lot, and it's nice to start off with small steps.
There's another question here for you, Dave. How long does lab testing typically take?
Well, let's start by saying a lot of tests are going to take, if it's a 7-day test, or let's say it's a 2-week test, I'm not going to be able to get that done in 3 days. We're good. We're not exceptionally good like that. Typically, lab testing will take about 4 weeks. Depends on the severity, depends on what's in queue. But traditionally, it's going to be about 4 weeks. The best thing, the thing that takes the longest on lab testing is getting the materials in the first place. So if we can get the substrates and the tapes that are being tested, if we're using competitive samples, our own samples, and as well as, most importantly, the substrates, that if we can get that all at one time and in the beginning, that condenses the time frame for the testing. But on average, figure 4 weeks.
Okay. We've got another question for you, Janet. Can customers work in conjunction with Avery Dennison on its CSR goals? Can the customer do that?
Yes. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what, but if there's an organization that the customer sponsors and wants to get, further impact and maybe talk with our foundation team and introduce us to that organization and see how the foundation can get involved with them, that's definitely a way we're open to that. We've done, if there's a campaign that we can support that organization is doing, get some of our local employees that might be locally regionally focused with them, absolutely.
Great. It looks like I've got time for just one more question. And this one is for you, Joe. Are there any costs associated with membership of Pstc?
We do have a membership. We do have a membership fee. I don't think it's a significant membership fee, but we can certainly share that what that looks like for our existing programs. What I'd encourage people to do is go onto our website if you're interested in learning more. As Robin said earlier, it's www.pstc.org, and there's a little button there that says contact us. And if you fill out that information, you'll either hear back from myself or Michelle Miller, who is our executive VP of the Pstc, and we can have more dialogue about it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of information on that site if you just want to go and check out some of the classes modules that are offered, webinars. So pstc.org. Well, thank you so much to our panel. This was awesome. Thank you for your time. Thank you to our audience for giving us your time today. We really appreciate your time, and we hope to see you back here again in December. Thanks, everybody. Have a great fall.